We live in a world obsessed with noise. We feel pressured to speak up, to have an opinion, from long-winded meetings where ideas are drowned in platitudes, to frenetic social media feeds where your value is measured by how often you appear. We are taught that to survive, you must shout. To be noticed, you must talk more. To be in control, you must have the last word. But what if all of that is wrong? What if the most powerful weapon isn't the word, but its absence? Think about that room. A tense negotiation. 10 people are arguing. And then there is one person, someone just sitting there, listening, expressionless, while others shout. They just watch. As the pressure mounts, they remain silent. At first, no one notices them, but gradually, their silence begins to have weight. It takes up space. It becomes heavier than any word being spoken. The loud ones start to feel uneasy. They look toward the silent person, waiting for a reaction. They begin to doubt their own arguments. Why isn't she saying anything? What does she know that we don't? That silence, in that moment, changed the entire dynamic of the room. The real power had shifted. This is not the silence of the weak, not the silence of one with nothing to say. This is deliberate silence, a strategic silence. This is what most of us fear. Why do we fear silence so much? In a conversation, just a few seconds of pause feels awkward. We rush to fill that gap with anything. Meaningless chatter, complaints. We do it because silence forces us to confront our own thoughts, and more frighteningly, to confront the judgment of others. Silence is a mirror. It reflects our insecurities, our social instincts, are programmed to seek connection. Silence, to the primitive brain, equals rejection, isolation, being cast out of the tribe. And being cast out of the tribe meant death. That fear is still in us. When someone is silent, we interpret it as anger, disagreement, or indifference. Our brain cannot stand ambiguity. It needs an answer immediately. And this is where the power begins. When you learn to control your own silence, you disarm your opponent. They expect a reaction. They expect you to shout back, or make excuses, or concede. When you give them none of that, you push them into the land of uncertainty, the very place where their brain is screaming in discomfort. They don't know what you're thinking. They can't predict your next move. And while they are busy fighting their own demons, filling the void with increasingly desperate words, you are observing. You are listening. Not just to the words. You listen to what is not said. The hesitation in their voice, the shift in their body language, the panic hidden behind their aggression. They are revealing everything themselves. They are handing you the keys to unlock them. The one who talks the most believes they are controlling the conversation. That is an illusion. They are only controlling the noise. Real power is not about imposition. Think of a boss who doesn't yell. When an employee makes a mistake, they just stay silent and watch. That silence forces the employee to explain themselves, to admit fault without the boss saying a single word. Many people go through life like an open book. They broadcast every thought, every emotion, because they seek validation. They fear judgment if they don't explain themselves. Mastering silence is learning to close that book, to open it only when you want, on your terms. It is about accepting that you don't need to fill every void. You have the right to observe the silent one. The one who hears what is unsaid is the one who controls the dynamic of the conversation. We've talked about why silence is power. Now it's time to talk about how. This is not the silence of the timid. This is the silence of the hunter. The first and most fundamental tactic is the mirror. In a confrontation, our instinct is to defend. When someone criticizes you, you want to explain. When someone attacks you, you want to attack back. This is what they expect. It is the familiar rhythm of conflict. The mirror breaks that rhythm. When your opponent levels an accusation, instead of answering, you stay silent. You look at them, not with hostility, not with fear, just a neutral observation. Your silence creates a vacuum. And as we know, the human brain hates a vacuum. They have thrown a ball at you, and they expect you to throw it back. When you don't, that ball falls to the ground. Now, they have to do something. They feel the pressure to speak again. They start to explain their own accusation. I mean, you know that project was late. They begin to question themselves. I'm not saying it was all your fault. But the more they talk, the more they reveal their own insecurities. They reveal their true motives. They might be angry for a completely different reason. And you were just a convenient target. You haven't said a word, but you have forced them to confront themselves in the mirror. You just held up. In many cases, they will talk themselves to the conclusion that their anger was unjustified. They extinguish their own fire. You have won without ever having to fight. Next is the tactic of the anchor. Think of the people who talk incessantly. They talk about the weather, about politics, about their lunch. After a while, their words lose all value. It's just background noise. We learn to ignore them. Now, think of the person who speaks only when it is truly necessary. A leader, a mentor, they sit through the entire meeting. They listen, and when all opinions have been given, when everyone has exhausted their energy, the room falls quiet. And then they speak. Just 1 or 2 sentences. Those sentences land like a hammer. Everyone listens because their words have weight. That weight was built by the very silence that preceded it. They have taught everyone around them a simple rule. I do not waste words. So when I speak, you should listen. This is how you build authority. Authority doesn't come from the volume of your voice. It comes from the scarcity of your words. By speaking less, you make every word you utter 10 times more valuable. You turn your words from an inflated currency into gold. Finally, and perhaps most powerfully, is the power void. This tactic is often seen in negotiations. Imagine you are trying to buy something. You offer a price. The seller refuses and gives a much higher counteroffer. What is your instinct? To immediately counter back. To start the argument, instead, you try this. You hear their price, and you go silent. You just look at them. Maybe you furrow your brow slightly, as if calculating, but you say nothing. 1 second passes. 5 seconds, 10 seconds. To the seller, those 10 seconds feel like 10 minutes. Their brain is screaming. Did I go too high? Is he going to walk away? I have to say something. Your silence has created a power void, a tension that they feel compelled to resolve. In many cases, they will be the one to break that silence. Well, I could probably knock a little off if you pay today. Or, that price does include the warranty. You know. Boom. They just negotiated against themselves. They made a concession. Not because you forced them, but because they couldn't stand the pressure of your controlled silence. The mirror, the anchor, and the power void. These aren't tricks. They are psychological tools. They work because they tap directly into how the human brain operates. They exploit the fear of rejection, the fear of uncertainty, and the need to fill the void. But to use these tools, you must pay a price. You must conquer your greatest enemy. That enemy is not the person across the table. That enemy is inside you. It is your impulsiveness. It is your ego which wants to scream, "I am right." It is your own fear that if you stay silent, others will think you are weak or foolish. Mastering external silence first requires mastering the noise within. Mastering the internal noise, that is the real battlefield. Harder than any negotiation or confrontation, because this enemy is sophisticated. It is not external, it is internal. It disguises itself in the armor of righteousness. It masquerades as reason. It is your ego. Think about an argument on social media. Someone says something stupid, insulting, completely wrong. You feel an itch in your fingers. A current runs down your spine. That is your ego screaming. It says, you must win. You must correct them. You must have the last word. It whispers that silence in this moment is failure, that if you don't respond, it means they have won. But what is real victory? Is it typing out a harsh response that they will probably ignore, only to spend the next 3 hours checking if they've replied? Or is it keeping your own peace of mind? When you see that comment, feel the anger rise and deliberately close the app that is power. You are not surrendering. You are refusing to join a battle you did not choose. You have conserved your precious mental energy. That is the first obstacle, the ego. The second obstacle is even more it is fear. We fear being misunderstood. We fear being seen as weak. If I say nothing, they'll think I agree. If I don't defend myself, they'll think I'm stupid. Imagine a family dinner. A relative starts talking about a topic you vehemently oppose. You feel your blood boil. Your heart races. Your instinct is to jump in, to point out all their logical fallacies, to correct them. But you stop. You use the pause. You ask an internal question. What is my goal here? Is it to change the mind of someone who has been entrenched for 60 years? Or is it to enjoy the dinner? Will my words bring results? Or will it just start a fight that makes everyone uncomfortable? Your silence in that moment is not agreement. It is a strategic assessment. You recognize this battle is not worth fighting. You are protecting your energy for more important things. Silence is not passive. It is a conscious choice. So, how do you get there? How do you conquer the ego and the fear? By practicing detachment. This is the most important skill you can learn. Learning to observe your own emotions without becoming them. When someone insults you, anger rises. The average person immediately becomes the anger. They act from the anger. They yell. They attack. But the disciplined person is different. They also feel the anger, but they do not become it. They observe it. They take a mental step back and say, this is anger. Interesting. My heart is beating faster. My face is getting hot. They acknowledge the emotion, but they do not give it control. They do not hand it the weapon, and the emotion's weapon is your words. This is the golden space, the space between stimulus and response. Most people go through life not even knowing this space exists. They feel and act in the same nanosecond. The one who masters silence is the one who deliberately widens that space. Even if only for 5 seconds. Someone says something that makes you angry. Instead of reacting instantly, you take a breath. You count to 5. In those 5 seconds, you shift from your primitive brain reaction to your rational brain response. You regain control. And when the internal noise subsides, something magical happens. You begin to truly listen. For the first time, you don't just hear the words. You hear the intent behind the words. You realize the colleague yelling at you about a small mistake. It's not actually that they hate you. They are terrified because of pressure from their own boss. Their aggression is a cover for their insecurity. You realize the person always bragging about their achievements. It's not that they are arrogant. They are desperate for the validation they never received. When you are busy preparing your next reply in your head, you are trapped in your own story. You only hear the voice of your ego. But when you are truly silent, internally, you get outside of yourself, and you see the entire chessboard. You see their story. And that is the real information. That is the real control. The tactics we talked about, the mirror, the anchor, the power void, they are just tools. They are the wheels. This internal silence, this detachment from the ego, this is the engine. Without the engine, the wheels don't turn. Those tactics are just an empty charade. True power is not about using silence to manipulate others. It is about using silence to master yourself. Think about presence. We've all experienced it. You walk into a room, and there is one person. They aren't saying much. Maybe they are just standing in the corner, observing, but there is a weight around them. People are unconsciously drawn to them. When they do speak, even just a few words, the room settles. This isn't magic. This is the measurable result of internal silence. Most people leak. They leak energy. Every thought, every insecurity, every fear is broadcast outward through non-stop talking, through restless body language, through the need for attention. They are a house with all the lights on and all the windows open. The person who has mastered internal silence does not. They are a closed system. Their energy is contained. It is condensed. What other people perceive is not coldness, it is solidity, a rock. In a chaotic world where everyone is pulled in 1,000 directions, that solidity is the rarest and most attractive form of power. People crave it. They are drawn to it, even if they don't understand why. The noisy world operates on reaction traps, designed to steal your energy. The act of silence is a declaration. I refuse to take the bait. This is the final paradox. The one who talks the most believes they are in control, but they are merely a puppet. The one who is silent, free from the need to prove themselves, is the one in real control. The noisy world will keep shouting, but you don't have to join in. You get to choose. You don't have to be the loudest. You just have to be the one who hears the clearest. Not their words, but the noise inside yourself, and choosing silence instead. That is control. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.